What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your weekend astrology horoscope for the weekend of October 19th and the 20th of 2024. Astrologer Brian Scarborough here, Fixed Air Moon, keeping the collective fixed on astrology. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for all the kind wishes. Thank you for some of the donations and the supers. You guys are a blessing in my life. Thank you so much. So I'm just glad that you're here with me on this journey. As we look at this weekend, very interesting yod, with the sun here in Libra at 26 coming to 27 degrees at this apex point of the yod with Neptune and Uranus, Neptune in Pisces, Uranus in Taurus. It's just a different vibration of a yod that we're starting to see more and more. We're so sort of accustomed to the Pluto-Neptune yods that many of you might have in your chart. I know a lot of people have those yods. A lot of them were with planets in Taurus, back in the day, or Gemini. Anyways, it's just a very different vibration. And the moon's going to meet with Uranus today and also quincunx that sun as it's sextiling over to Neptune and trining over to Pluto. And as the sun's approaching this square to Pluto in Capricorn also, for the final time that we'll see a sun in Libra square Pluto in Capricorn, might I add. So it's a very unique vibration. So this Saturday especially, really tune in to how you're feeling, to the electrical receptors in your body, your nervous system, and really try and find peace. And I think this is the interesting thing about this yod is you're probably going to want to be a very good observer, because you're going to observe people acting differently. You're going to maybe act differently yourself. Maybe this is where individuals, you, me, just kind of start to really settle into a much more individuated sense of self, kind of based on how we're forming all these new relationships to the world we live in and how we are adapting and evolving. So it's very interesting. Try to be a good observer. Try to let your body feel things out. Let this sort of integrate. It's going to be electricity for sure. And yeah, use Neptune as this flow state, and use Uranus as this ability to detach right now and observe people. Observe the relationships in your life. Observe how fated encounters could come into your life this weekend, and observe how people that you already know, certain fated conversations or relationship dynamics will kind of approach too. So very interesting to keep that in mind, and seeing sort of the transformative effects with Pluto finishing here in Capricorn and the moon trining over that and then coming into Gemini. And then right after that, we have this big yod to the sun in Libra, which is ruled by Venus, of course. The moon's going to oppose that Venus from Gemini over to Sagittarius. So quite interesting just in terms of a lot of the people dynamics in our life. Relationship stuff is definitely getting I think a magnifying glass to it, but also getting amplified in certain ways, or even with Mercury here in Scorpio getting narrowed down, and with the sun starting to square Pluto, there's a weird narrowing. So for some people, it's all this really cool stuff, and this vibration might be expanding, and for others, you might have to get a little bit more deep into things and really, try to find the truth, and not just blindly believe and have faith, because remember, this Venus is now disposited by Jupiter, which is retrograde in Gemini where the moon is. So it's a weird thing where we don't want to just over believe or be too grandiose about certain situations, or be overly empathetic with Neptune in this yod too about certain situations. It'll be interesting. You'll have to see how the electricity is hitting in your personal life, whether it is expanding based on truth of really beautiful alignments, fated encounters, or if it's showing things about different relationships already, happening in our lives that are ooh, that's definitely an important thing, that maybe a boundary needs to be drawn, or maybe, I need to express my feelings better, express my truth, express my own self-worth, my own values. So it's interesting, the expansion, but also the contraction. It's a very mix of expansion and contraction on Saturday. And as we get to Sunday, of course, that moon's going to be in the area here of Gemini, and almost get to Jupiter by the evening. But it makes good aspects to the nodes coming into Sunday, and we're going to start to see this intensify with the square from the Sun to Pluto. So it'll be interesting. There's a lot of truth this weekend. It's kind of like a truth bomb weekend. Certain things are feeling really exciting, really good, really faded, and certain things are feeling like a little bit overstimulated and a little bit too intense. Boundaries need to be drawn. Interesting stuff. We really want to come back to ourselves. We want to feel as whole within ourselves as possible, and make sure that we're letting our emotions be felt so that we can act on them, especially with Mars here starting to oppose Pluto over the next week. Plus really here in Cancer, and there's a lot of like emotional wheels turning right now, but there's action to be taken from what's being felt, and we don't want to be in a paralysis or feeling stuck in the mud. We do want to like trust our feelings, trust the truth of what's happening and what we're experiencing in our life, and be able to act accordingly from, of course, I think a very responsible manner here. This is the final like big transits to Pluto in Capricorn, so seeing the Sun square it, Mars oppose it before it leaves, like there's just so much of this like really high level Capricorn integration of our own maturity, our discipline, how we are going to go after life right now, and what we're going to do, and the necessary steps and procedures that we need to make for ourselves. And I think also how we're finding more of our own authority to make certain calls, and how we're going to relate that with others. It's a big weekend for that. So pay attention to what's going on with people, pay attention to how you're feeling and how you're responding, and do your best to kind of detach a little bit and like look for truth and see, where things are really truthfully good without, just a hope and a belief, but really they're showing up in a good way. And also where, there's a truth that isn't so great, and boundary maybe needed to be formed, and that's okay. You should feel strong and powerful for the decisions you have to make in your life right now. So, hope you all have a great weekend. Appreciate you all. We got the Sun card. I feel like I rarely ever pull the Sun card. It's such a good card. But it's interesting with the Sun being in this yacht, and like I just feel like, it does really come back to relationships, right? And it's just funny, this is a Sun card that does have the two people in it, and not just, the little baby riding off into the sun, but like two people, and how two people are kind of riding off into the sun and happiness. It's very fated encounter kind of stuff, but also it just, things need to be bright, and we need to find a lot of light right now. As remember, we're about to come into Scorpio season, and time goes back an hour. We lose a lot of light in these times, and it's an important time to remember to keep our sun shining all the time. The sun's going to show and shine and rise every day no matter what, and we have to remember to do the same, but to do it from a more mature and self-accountable and self-expressive, expressive form of our true self, and how the evolution has brought us to this truth that we found within ourselves now. I appreciate you all. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday. Much love. Peace.